25,000 acres, 5% contained. The Ross Fire is exploding across North Texas right now. And I'm not talking about a slow-moving fire. This thing went from 300 acres to 25,000 acres in under 24 hours. That is not a typo. That is one of the fastest explosive fire growth events I have seen in recent memory. Social media from the ground near Palo Pinto County is showing what witnesses are calling fire whirls, extreme rotating columns of fire. Those have not yet been officially confirmed by the National Weather Service, but extreme fire behavior has been confirmed by Texas A&M Forest Service. Evacuation advisories are in effect. Highway 180 is shut down. And here's the thing, this is not just a Texas story. 86 large fires are burning across the United States today. 7.8 million acres burned so far in 2026. My goodness. We also have the Hawk Fire near Reno, Nevada, destroying homes. The Pacific Northwest at its highest fire alert level. This is an action-packed and frankly devastating forecast today. So let's get right into it. All right, let's start where the biggest story is, and that is North Texas, specifically Palo Pinto and Jack counties. The Ross Fire ignited Monday near U.S. Highway 180 and R.D. Bell Road, about 60 miles west of Fort Worth near Mineral Wells. It started at around 25 acres at 1:28 p.m. Monday per Palo Pinto County Emergency Service District 1s. That sounds manageable, right? Then conditions exploded. By Monday evening, it crossed 15,000 acres. By 4 a.m. Tuesday, 25,000 acres, 5% contained. And here's the meteorological reason why. The National Weather Service confirms North Texas hit a record 109 degrees Fahrenheit on August 24th. NWS data shows relative humidity at 18 to 25% Monday afternoon, critically low, over a landscape that hasn't seen rain in over a month. Sustained south-southwest winds of 10 to 15 miles per hour, with gusts to 20 to 25 miles per hour. That is what fire scientists call a wind-driven run setup. A wind-driven run, that's when the fire essentially surfs the wind, laying flat and racing across the landscape at terrifying speed. Fox 4 Dallas reports the fire grew so intense that smoke clouds were visible on satellite imagery. That tells you the energy this fire is releasing. Eyewitnesses on social media reported seeing the glow in their rearview mirrors from miles away. That's how fast it moved. Texas A&M Forest Service confirms extreme fire behavior throughout the event. Their words, not mine. This is a serious official designation. Now, the Palo Pinto County Sheriff's Office has strongly advised evacuation for residents north of Fortune Bend Road toward Highway 16 North at FM 337. This is a precautionary advisory, not yet a mandatory order, but officials say do not wait, especially if you need extra time to leave. Per local emergency officials, residents in portions of Jack County are also being urged to leave, heading east on CR 2210 toward Highway 281. Always verify evacuation zones with Jack County OEM and Palo Pinto County Emergency Management directly. Conditions are changing rapidly. And I cannot stress this enough, do not drive into smoke. Do not try to outrun the fire on a closed road. As of early Tuesday, no injuries have been reported from the Ross Fire. That is good news. But 3 to 4 structures have already been damaged. Highway 180 is closed to all traffic between South FM 4 and FM 919. A temporary flight restriction is also in effect over the fire zone. Now let's look at what NASA satellites are telling us, because this data from this morning is remarkable and independently confirms the scale. As of 8:59 UTC this morning, NASA's FIRM satellite system detected 746 heat detection points near Grafford in Palo Pinto County. The maximum fire radiative power, that's the energy being released by the fire, hit 391 megawatts at that cluster. That is an enormous number. The total radiant energy across the entire Palo Pinto cluster came in at over 10,000 megawatts. The satellite data does not lie. Here's the most alarming stat. All 746 of those heat points were detected at night, 0 daytime detections. That means this fire burned through the entire night at full intensity. It never laid down. It never slowed. Not once. A second NASA cluster near Bryson in Jack County showed 115 heat points with a maximum firepower of 200 megawatts overnight. That cluster also burned all night. The satellite data independently confirms fire activity well into Jack County. The Ross Fire perimeter spans roughly 9 kilometers east to west and 28 kilometers north to south. A long, thin northward run through the landscape. TIFMAS, that's the Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System, is activated. Texas A&M Forest Service has dozers and aviation on the ground. Now let's talk about the other active fires in Texas, because the Ross Fire is not the only fight happening right now. Down in Hamilton County, the Rio Escondido fire is burning 2,500 acres as of late Monday night, only 20% contained. 23 Texas game wardens are on scene there, supporting evacuations and running drones to identify hotspots near structures. Out in Motley County, the Rustler Fire is at roughly 300 acres. Texas A&M Forest Service reported it at 40% containment. Texas A&M Forest Service is at Preparedness Level 3. They've responded to around 40 requests for assistance since Friday alone. Burn bans are in effect across hundreds of Texas counties right now. If you're in Texas, do not burn anything outdoors, period. Okay, now let's jump to Nevada, because the Hawk Fire near Reno is a big-time, impactful, and heartbreaking situation. 5 miles north of Reno, per the NIFC situation report, 15,051 acres. The good news. Containment has now reached 27%. Officials confirm at least 32 homes have been completely destroyed. 6 more are damaged. 7 people have been injured. 4 of those injured are civilians. 3 are first responders who were out there protecting lives and putting their own on the line. 23,000 people remain under mandatory evacuation orders around Reno. 23,000 people out of their homes right now. The NIFC report confirms the Hawk Fire was human-caused, though how it started exactly remains under investigation. There has been no new growth in the latest NIFC update, and some evacuation orders have been downgraded. Some progress at last. Now let's head to the Pacific Northwest, where the national wildfire situation is at its most intense level, Preparedness Level 5. Oregon is carrying 16 large fires right now. Washington State has 14. Montana is fighting 13. Idaho has 10. In Washington State, the Little Giant Fire on the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest has burned 144,832 acres, only 15% contained. That fire is 30 miles northwest of Leavenworth. Timber fuels active fire behavior. Numerous structures and critical infrastructure threatened. The Sinlahecan Fire in northeastern Washington, 155,209 acres, 53% contained, and 30 structures confirmed lost per the NIFC report. And then there's the Colwash Fire near the Yakima Nation. The NIFC report shows it added 34,599 acres in a single operational period. One day, y'all. In Oregon, the Roe Creek Complex south of Fossil, 373,981 acres, 91% contained. Crews are finally making real progress there. The Grasshopper Fire on Mount Hood National Forest, 93,693 acres, 76% contained, 35 homes destroyed per NIFC data. Here's a detail that tells you how massive this fight has become. The United States has called in international reinforcements. 3 incident management teams and 270 fireline personnel from Australia and New Zealand are here right now fighting fires in the Northwest. The U.S. Army has deployed 240 soldiers from Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State to fight the Little Giant Fire specifically. 5 MFF C-130 military air tankers are based at Klamath Falls, Oregon, and Redding, California. Flying retardant drops daily. The NIFC National Situation Report shows 22,085 firefighters and support personnel working fire incidents across the country as of Monday. 86 large uncontained fires, 3.6 million acres currently burning. That is the scale of what we are dealing with nationally. Per NIFC, 50,784 wildfires have burned 7.8 million acres in 2026 so far. That is 168% of the 10-year average for acres burned. All right, let's bridge into the next 1 to 2 days, because what's coming with the weather is absolutely critical to understand. A cold front is dropping into the northern plains today. Montana is going to feel some cooler temperatures. Good news up there. But here's the problem. That cold front dies well north of Texas. It does not help Palo Pinto. It does not help Jack County. The NIFC Predictive Services discussion confirms very hot temperatures of 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit continuing across North Texas through midweek. The same report confirms locally breezy winds and relative humidity of 10 to 20% for southern Oklahoma and North Texas. That combination, triple-digit heat, low humidity, breezy winds, is the exact setup that caused the Ross Fire to explode yesterday. And it's not going away. The NIFC outlook says elevated wildfire danger is expected to continue at least through midweek across the region. Now, out in the Pacific Northwest, the brief cooler spell that Oregon and Washington felt yesterday, it's already over. Per the NIFC Predictive Services discussion, temperatures are warming back to 80 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit across the northwest fire zones today. And minimum relative humidity there is going to fall to 8 to 20%. 8% in the fire zones. Critically dangerous. For context, the NWS red flag warning criteria trigger when humidity drops below 15% combined with winds of 25 miles per hour or more. Out in the Four Corners region, isolated to scattered monsoon thunderstorms continue over Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. Here's the problem. The NIFC discussion notes rainfall footprints remain small due to hot temperatures evaporating rain before it hits the ground. That phenomenon is called virga. Rain that falls from a cloud but evaporates completely before reaching the surface below. Virga can make things worse because it can carry dry outflow winds and lightning downward with none of the beneficial moisture. The NIFC outlook specifically flags isolated mixed wet and dry thunderstorms tonight across northeast California and southeast Oregon. New ignition risk. Bottom line for the next 48 hours, extreme heat, critically low humidity, and wind. It stays dangerous across the fire-impacted regions. And that brings us to the extended picture. What does the 5 to 7 day outlook look like across these fire-impacted regions? Let's start with Texas, because the Ross Fire is still in the explosive growth phase. There's no containment to hang your hat on yet. The NWS Storm Prediction Center maintains fire weather outlooks for the region. Elevated to critical conditions are expected through at least Wednesday. Now, I have to be honest with you, there is real model uncertainty about what happens to wind patterns later this week. Some model runs are showing a slight wind shift by Thursday that could push the fire's run more northeast toward less populated terrain. Other runs keep that southerly flow going, which means the fire continues tracking north-northeast directly into Jack County communities. The GFS, that's the American Global Forecast System, is currently the more aggressive solution for continued northward fire spread through the week. The European model, the ECMWF, is hinting at slightly more wind turning by Thursday evening. We'll monitor both runs closely. Here's the meteorological mechanism driving all of this, and I want to explain it clearly because it matters for understanding the risk going forward. We have an upper-level high-pressure dome, what we call a heat dome, anchored over the southern plains right now. A heat dome is when a ridge of high pressure in the upper atmosphere acts like a lid, trapping hot air underneath and suppressing cloud development. Air sinks under high pressure and sinking air compresses and warms. It's essentially an oven lid sitting over Texas and Oklahoma. On the western flank of that dome, winds flow out of the south and southwest, exactly the direction that has been driving the Ross Fire north. For this pattern to break, that high would need to weaken, shift east, or get disrupted by an incoming trough from the west. Models are not agreeing on when that happens. That uncertainty is exactly why I need to give you 3 scenarios right now. Best case scenario, a wind shift arrives by Thursday. The Ross Fire gets pushed into already burned terrain and begins to slow. In this scenario, crews can begin establishing containment lines on the northern flank by Thursday night or Friday, a real fighting chance. Middle scenario, winds stay southerly through the week. The fire continues its northward run toward Jack County communities near Jacksboro. In this scenario, evacuation zones expand significantly. Communities along U.S. Highway 281 would come under direct threat. Worst case scenario, a convective outflow event, strong winds generated by a thunderstorm to the north, causes erratic, multi-directional spread. Worst case means overwhelmed resources and potentially significant structure loss across both counties. That's the scenario crews are planning to prevent. I want to be clear, the worst case is not the most likely outcome. But with 5% containment on 25,000 acres, you plan for every scenario. Now let's zoom out to the Pacific Northwest for the extended outlook, because the situation there is equally serious, just slower moving. Oregon and Washington are at National Preparedness Level 5, the maximum. Resources from across the country are being committed there. The extended outlook through late August shows continued above normal temperatures across the entire Northwest, per NIFC Predictive Services. There is no significant precipitation in the 7-day outlook for Oregon or Washington, none. The fires have open terrain ahead of them. Model uncertainty centers on how strong an offshore flow event gets, dry air pushing from inland areas toward the coast. A strong offshore flow would drive humidity into single digits across western Oregon and Washington, Catastrophic for fires on the western slopes. That scenario would put the Austin, Grasshopper, and Three Queens fires on the west side of the Cascades under severe threat. On the optimistic side, there's a potential marine push. Cool Pacific air trying to come onshore by late Friday in the models. If that marine layer survives the push inland, it could raise humidity values enough along the coast to slow fire activity somewhat. But that's day 5 and day 6 territory, long range, and I've watched this signal disappear entirely in the very next model run. 3 northwest scenarios. Best case, marine air pushes in Friday, humidity recovers, overnight fire activity drops significantly along the coast. Middle scenario, offshore flow dominates through the weekend, fires continue growing, evacuation zones expand around Leavenworth, Washington, and Estacada, Oregon. Worst case, offshore flow combines with a dry lightning outbreak, igniting new fires across already stressed terrain in eastern Oregon and Washington. Now for the national picture, the Great Basin, the Southwest, and the Rockies. Here's the bottom line for the extended period. The Frijoles fire in New Mexico, 3 miles east of Condillo, 15,226 acres, 45% contained per NIFC. Watch this one through the weekend. The timber fire in Big Sur on Los Padres National Forest, 12,115 acres, 25% contained, threatening residences along the California coast. The Mukluk fire near Tok, Alaska, 7,260 acres, 29% contained per NIFC. Yes, Alaska is also in this fight this summer. And in Florida, the Chipmunk fire in the Everglades, per NIFC, it added 6,276 acres in a single day Monday, now at 15,508 total acres. That's a fire in the Everglades, y'all. Grasslands burning in Florida in late August. The drought footprint is coast to coast right now. Smoke is a factor that cannot be ignored. It can travel hundreds of miles and significantly impact air quality far from the fire lines. If you're downwind of any of these fires, Denver, Salt Lake City, Portland, Boise, or Kansas City, check fire.airnow.gov for your air quality today. Limit outdoor exercise when air quality goes into orange or red categories. Keep windows closed. Wear a mask if you need to go outside. Children, the elderly, and anyone with respiratory conditions are especially vulnerable to smoke. Please take that seriously. All right, let's bring it home. Here's what you need to know, and I want to be direct with you about how serious today's situation is. The Ross Fire in Texas is the most actively evolving large wildfire situation in the country right now. It is still growing. If you are in Palo Pinto County or Jack County, Texas, follow all official instructions from County Emergency Management, not social media. Do not wait to see flames before you leave. By the time you see a wall of fire at 25,000 acres, waiting is no longer an option. This fire situation will develop rapidly over the next 24 to 48 hours, and the weather is not cooperating for containment efforts. I will have a full update on the Ross Fire, the Northwest Fire Complex, and any new large ignitions first thing tomorrow morning. If the containment situation in Texas does not improve overnight and new communities come under threat, I'll put out a special update tonight. If this kind of coverage is helpful to you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. That way, the moment there is a significant development on any of these fires, you're going to hear about it right away. Our thoughts are with every firefighter, every first responder, and every family displaced by these fires across the country tonight. These men and women are working in record-breaking 109-degree heat to protect lives, homes, and livestock. Please keep them in your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.